Season 2, Episode 2, lights out in Melbourne. It's race week. It's Raw Geek, as Kevin loves to enjoy that little joke. Kevin, I know I say it all the time. We're back. You can see us. We are in studio here in front of the, green walls that you can't see, but the lovely background that is the Lapped Podcast background. Plenty to talk about as we head into the first race weekend of the 2025 Formula One Championship season. It's race week. Oh, we've been waiting for so long for this. We've got 6 rookies on the grid. Rain is in the forecast for the race itself. I'm 100% expecting all sorts of drama to kick off the year. But as we get this thing underway, TLPs, the Lap Podcast fanatics, make sure to give us a subscribe, like, comment along. Follow our social medias down below.
Don't forget about the socials. We're putting in extra time, overtime for stuff we ain't even getting paid for. So make sure you go follow the socials, the Instagram, the Twitter. Twitter's where you're going to be able to find all of our information for the podcast, for the videos, for the shorts. Maybe we'll put out a few funny tweets here and there, maybe some funny social clips. And then Instagram, you can find our reels, you can find our shorts, you can find some more short little videos. Again, follow us there. We'll post stuff on our stories every now and then. It's pretty funny stuff. So definitely be sure to give us follows on the socials and also the personal socials. We're going to take a little moment to do a quick shout out. Mine is on the below. Tristan's is below. You go ahead, give them a follow.
We've already self-promoted enough. Let's just get to the actual content here.
We will engage with y'all.
Let's get to the content, man. We got a race weekend finally after months and months of waiting. We got to go through the expectations for each one of these teams throughout the entire grid. Just walking into this weekend, we did a whole preview of the season, what we thought going into this Formula One season in our last video going into testing. But as it pertains to Australia, let's start with the Stake Formula One team, formerly known as Sauber, whatever you want to call them. What are we thinking about as it pertains to Stake Formula One going into this race weekend in Australia?
I think if you're Stake, you just kind of want to see what Gabriel Bortoleto is going to be able to do. It's going to be kind of his chance to... Well, like you said, there's going to be 6 rookies on track. We'll be able to talk about all 6 of them as we go through, but Bortoleto is going to be the first one we talk about here. I think you just want to see what you got in him. You kind of already know what you're going to get from Nico Hülkenberg. And if you're Stake, you just kind of want to not be last. I think that kind of summarizes exactly what they want from this weekend.
I think they're a bit inevitable as a last place team, to be completely honest. We talked about it at length in the last episode, but I think the goal for a guy like Gabriel Bortoleto, like you mentioned, is really going to be how close is he to Nico Hülkenberg, a savvy veteran driver,
or does he, does he out-qualify him even?
Yeah. So the goal really is being close or even surpassing your teammate at this point, right? The reigning Formula 3 champion last year, now reigning Formula 2 champion. The kid's got pure pace. He's got talent. He's got the credentials to be here. It's just a matter of proving himself, overcoming the car at a certain extent, but proving to Stake, proving to the Audi people behind this project that in Albert Park, he belongs, right? And that's going to be a pretty common theme throughout the rest of this episode as we talk through things. But Gabriel Bortoleto, that's got to be your goal. Nico Hülkenberg, even if we're in 17th and 18th place, right? Be within 2 seconds of him by the end of the race. Like that'd be an insanely awesome goal.
Yeah.
Being close within qualifying, within a couple hundredths of a second. Like those have to be your benchmark goals if you're Gabriel Bortoleto. And honestly, there's going to be a common theme here throughout this entire walkthrough because we have 6 rookies. And you're bringing up some news here too.
Yeah, I wanted to get to this just since we're talking about Stake. The Stake F1 team kicks Sauber, if you will.
That's a name.
They added Jonathan Wheatley as their team principal. That'll be starting April 1st, otherwise known as April Fools.
Yeah,
but it won't be April Fools for Stake fans. It will be Jonathan Wheatley taking over the reins as the team principal there.
Yeah, and Wheatley comes over from Red Bull, has a lot of experience with a lot of success coming from the Red Bull regime. So they're getting a lot of good people behind this project. I think the issue really is how far behind they are with all of these key personnel moves. we're going to see this as a trend over the course of the season. And it's somewhat of a distracting kind of season for this incoming Audi regime. But nonetheless, this is still going to be a very interesting race weekend as a whole. Moving on to Williams. Look, I'll start off here. The Carlos Sainz era is here.
Smooth operator.
It is the Carlos Sainz time for Williams. It's the Carlos Sainz time for James Vowles, for Alex Albon. And look, Alex Albon is no slouch, but with this new dynamic duo, as it pertains to Melbourne, I think the key question we have to ask here is who's going to come out on top for the first race.
Right.
Who's going to set that precedent of, I'm here, this is my team, or it's my team if you're Alex Albon.
I mean, for Alex Albon, he's always been the number one driver whenever it comes to his time in F1. And I think now,
well, maybe not always.
Well, maybe not always, but for majority of the time, especially these past few years. And I think now and even he was even talking about it last year where he wanted Carlos. I mean, who doesn't want, Carlos Sainz, right? That's a proven vet. He's got race wins under his belt. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a proven winner. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see, but it's going to be tough, right? Because like Alex Albon, he's going to have to take that step back. He's going to have to let Carlos take the reins because he's obviously driver number one.
Sure.
Carlos is going to be driver number one. And I think like you said, Carlos is going to be driver number one, but if Albon is topping him in times or Albon is out qualifying him, that's going to be a problem for Williams, right?
I mean, not so much a problem. Like, it's a performance thing. At the end of the day, whoever leads points or whoever is leading consistently,
that's all James Vowles cares about.
I mean, that's going to be your number one. The Williams as an organization have been saying for years that they're looking towards the next regulation set, but you had some pretty strong, ambitious goals for Williams this year. You think they're going to be a P5 team?
I think they're going to be a P5 team. I think they're going to finish at fifth in the constructors.
I mean, they had some strong showings at testing, but look, you take everything at testing with a grain of salt.
I said that. Your eyes went wide. You were questioning me. I felt the hatred from your screen in Dallas to mine in Fort Worth, but there were some people and I get it. Testing is testing, and we'll really see this weekend in Melbourne, but and all the weekends going forward. But there were some other people that were like, hey, Williams is looking really solid. Sorry, Atlassian Williams is looking really solid. So we don't
have to do title sponsor for team names here, but
is it outlandish?
Look, yes, Williams had a nice time on day 2 of testing, and everybody got really excited because Carlos Sainz put the Williams with the fastest lap in Bahrain, right? But at the end of the day, testing is still something you have to take with a huge grain of salt. I mean, look, McLaren had some really strong times in testing as well, but the problem,
that's because they're the greats.
Well, the problem with testing is you don't know what fuel loads they're running on, what kind of simulation work they're trying to do within that run. What was the other point I was trying to make there? Fuel loads testing, blah blah. Yeah. Well, as well as higher compounds. Yeah, there's a completely different initiative when it comes to every single one of these teams as they walk through testing, and you're not trying to overload the engine as well within these programs because hey, you only have but so many engines to walk through an entire Formula One season with.
Right.
So as it pertains to Williams walking into this weekend,
to sum it up, I think if you can get a double points finish from Williams this weekend, that would be an incredible start.
That's an amazing start for Williams. I 100% agree with you. But do I think they're going to do it? I'm waiting to be proven wrong.
So would you say a successful weekend for Williams is one driver in the points?
Yeah. Considering they finished P9 last year, getting points consistently is going to be a huge, huge, huge deal, right? So just having Carlos Sainz in your team is one thing, but you also have to have the car underneath the driver to get there. Looking to our next team down that grid, going in reverse championship standings order from last year, VCarb, a lot of emphasis on Isaac Hadjar for me. Another rookie driver, first Grand Prix weekend with the big boys, rain in the forecast as well. I think the big question for him is going to be, can he hang?
Yeah.
In traverse conditions with a non-traditional, driving surface that is Albert Park in Melbourne. How close is he going to be not only to Yuki? How does he fare with the rest of the grid? Where does he place? Is he a Q1 elimination, right? And this is a really talented rookie class we've got coming in. There's been a lot of excitement. We do, depending on how you consider a rookie. Liam Lawson, maybe it is, maybe not.
Extended rookie.
You've got 5 rookies at the very least on this grid as far as F1 is concerned. And Isaac Hadjar was a runner-up in F2 last year, had a really strong battle with Gabriel Bortoleto. We've seen that he can show strong pace. The expectations for him are going to be not only staying close to Yuki, but even potentially proving very early that he can hang with Yuki, hang with the big boys, and maybe even outplace Yuki Tsunoda at certain points to continue to prove the Red Bull, higher ups correct in putting him there in the first place.
I think of all the rookies, there is most question with Hadjar.
Okay.
Because there's so I think
I disagree, but
because the ceiling and the floor, I know that he's obviously coming in highly touted. He had an incredible stint in F2 and F3 and everything like that. But I think that with him being in that V-carb system, I think his goal should just be to outdo Yuki every weekend.
It's a tall task, though. At the end of the day, I still think it's a tough ask for a rookie driver to completely outqualify Yuki Tsunoda. Now,
well, I didn't say he was going to do it every weekend, but I think if he do that majority of the time.
Yeah, I mean, look, your goal is always to beat your teammate first. That's your first rival, so to speak. But on top of that, I think that the ambitious goal of beating Yuki Tsunoda every weekend might be a bit far-reaching. Obviously, there are plenty of factors that contribute to that. I don't think he's under the most pressure. I would argue that maybe he's second to third on that list.
He's definitely not the most pressured. We can talk about that a little bit later on because I think we might have the same character.
We probably do. And you guys probably do at home as well. Let us know down in the comments who you think is under the most pressure this season. But I think V-Carb are walking into an interesting weekend. I'm not expecting them to score points on debut, either one of these drivers. I'm not going to say they're completely falling off a cliff development wise. They are bringing a lot of strong components over from the primary Red Bull team, considering that partnership. But I think V-Carb overall, I'm not expecting anything super drastic. I think one driver in the points would be still fantastic for this team. Right. I think maybe like a P10 to P9 finish would be great. If Isaac Hadjar scores points on debut, that exceeds my expectations.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Number 7, Haas. Who's going to start off on the hot foot here? That's my big question. You got any predictions for that?
Now, what do you mean by the hot foot? Because I've never heard hot foot before in my life ever.
Okay, so who starts off on the right foot, right? So I guess the real question is, who's going to win this first race between Esteban Ocon and Ollie Behrman, who has already had 3 Grand Prix underneath his belt? So much talent, a lot of pure pace. Another one of these highly touted rookies for this class, right?
A rookie who has experience already.
A little bit, yeah. Not quite Liam Lawson level of experience, right? But Ollie Behrman's got a lot of hype behind him. So for me, or posing to you really, and posing to the TLPs,
that's a good question.
Who comes out on top this first weekend?
I would really say I'm gonna lean on Ocon because just the veteran status, he knows what he's doing. And I think that the Haas car it'll be okay. It'll give them an opportunity to do something in the race weekend. I don't think it's going to be a large margin between Ocon or Behrman. And that's why I think it's a fantastic question, because it could really be a toss-up. Like I could see either or happening, Behrman having a better weekend or Ocon having a better weekend. But for my money, I would take Esteban in the opening weekend to outperform Behrman.
I think I'm going to disagree with you.
Okay.
I'm going to go Ollie Behrman to have a better drive the first race weekend between the two Haas teammates.
I think it's
going to surprise a lot of people.
I think it'll take a couple of races and he'll really start to heat up. Which I guess you could make that argument for most, if not all, rookies. But I think this weekend I'm going to give to Ocon.
I'm going to write that one down so I can stash it for later.
All right. Or we literally have video evidence.
Yeah, 100%. So, but I just want to make sure I follow up on it next podcast.
All right.
Alpine, who finished just barely ahead of Haas last year. This is the landing spot for the driver under the most pressure, in my opinion.
Okay.
Jack Doohan, huge target on his back to start. I mean, if you've been living under a rock, you might not know this, but Jack Doohan Got one race in under his belt at Abu Dhabi at the very end of the season last year. Didn't quite perform so hot. Kept it on track. Didn't do anything crazy. Throwing in a little bit early. An early exit for Esteban Ocon. Very controversial as well. But the signing of Franco Colapinto has placed this huge target on the Australian driver's back. I mean, kudos to him, by the way, starting his career with a home race. I mean, that's fun. That's
pretty
nice,
cool,
right? But you've got to start.
Got a lot of Aussies now.
Two.
More than past.
Well,
normally just one solo.
Last
Aussie.
year there were two. Daniel Ricciardo and
yeah,
your boy.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah. But
Aussie.
But nonetheless, Jack Doohan has a Franco Colapinto sized target on his back, and he's only got like 6 Grand Prix to like show that his worth to the Alpine team.
Has that been confirmed?
More or less.
No, right? It hasn't. I don't know.
The problem is that
I don't know if I'm buying it.
The problem is that we know that the conditions for Jack are between 4 to 6 races, and the leadership behind Alpine are very obviously showing a lot of impatience within their own project. They've been a little bit.
Well, they don't know what the hell they want to do either.
I mean, they've been very I don't know, scatterbrained is one way of putting it, as far as the off-track stuff, as far as the driver lineup stuff. This goes all the way back to like your boy once again, Oscar Piastri, going, "Oh no, I'm not actually driven for Alpine. I'm going to sign for McLaren." Great move,
good
but
decision.
At the end of the day, there's a lot going on behind the scenes with this team. The added driver pressure isn't going to help anything. And Jack Doohan absolutely starts with a huge target on his back. In my opinion, because the expectations are somewhat low, pressure's high, but the expectations are low.
Yeah.
Why not just send it, my man? Go do something dangerous. Be explosive. Be interesting.
Stay safe relatively. But I
mean, relatively. But if you see, a gap, Ayrton Senna, just go for it.
Yeah, no, I mean, for sure. That should be the mindset for him. Like I said, I don't know if I buy it. I don't know if I'm buying this whole he's got 6 races to prove it situation. And this is why. I think that...
You think they're going to give him more grace than like a handful of races after Colapinto signed a multi-year reserve role?
I think here's what I really, really think. I think that it was just kind of a ploy just to create a little bit of tension, create a little bit of buzz, maybe pretend to put a target on his back, but really I think they're going to let him race out this season. And now on the other hand,
you are the most optimistic person
now on the other hand
at this table,
well, because
and possibly even within the context of this post.
Well, and on the other hand, if it is true, then whoever in Alpine leaked out this information, you suck. Because that's a terrible way to start a rookie year. It's like, hey, congratulations, you signed this contract, blah,
you
blah,
fulfilled
blah,
a lifelong dream.
But we got a guy that could be better than you.
There's this Argentinian guy that's really good, and we saw him at a lot of races last year.
Don't mess up. Or
he crashed a few times, but he was pretty good.
Or if you do, sorry about your luck. That sucks. That should never have gotten out.
They've got 2 reserve drivers, if I'm not mistaken, as well. They've also got Paul Aaron, who also graduated.
2 first names.
Paul Aaron, Aron, not Aaron, but
still could be a first name.
Nah, but yeah, Paul Aaron is also one of the reserve drivers. I feel bad for Jack in all this. I think a lot of fans feel bad for Jack in all this. We're weirdly excited. It's almost like a car crash, man. I can't look away. Where you're like, I don't want to see this happen, but I'm really curious to see if it'll happen, that it happens.
I mean, that 6 race mark, everybody's going to be like,
Yeah, because it's by Miami, I think, is the cutoff.
Yeah, everybody's going to be sitting there and going to be like, okay.
I mean,
how has Jack Doohan looked?
I'll put it to you like this. P18 is not going to cut it for a guy named Jack Doohan.
They're going to be looking, and they're going to be like, oh, Franco was racing. He was practicing
he's consistently
here.
behind him by like 0.6, it's not going to go. It's not going to fly.
I agree.
We got to move on to Aston Martin. My question really is, what is the baseline for Aston Martin this year? Obviously, their goal is going to be to, at the very least, land in P5. But I made a pretty ambitious prediction that they were going to tumble in our testing debut video for this season. What do you think about their baseline going into this weekend? Overall, I mean, what are our thoughts for Aston Martin right now?
I don't love Aston Martin because I don't think they're going to make any progressions this year. I think there's going to be a whole lot of the same stuff from last year because they're so focused on 2026 with Adrian Newey officially being part of the team as of March 3rd.
Yes.
So I think there's going to be too focused on 2026. I think 2025 is a wash. Hey, if we get 5th, cool. If we get 6th, whatever. I think they end up in 6th at the end of the day when the constructors are all finalized. I don't expect anything crazy from Aston Martin. I could see points, but like I'm not. Nothing could surprise me from Aston Martin, really.
I mean, they are quite literally the definition of mid,
like
5th place,
like
6th place,
the middle of the middle pack. Yeah,
they separated themselves pretty significantly last year. They were very comfortably in 5th, where Alpine, Haas were in no danger of.
But they were
them.
Also far away from
Mercedes,
and all the others.
I mean, look, I think we have a lot to learn this weekend in terms of Aston Martin's goals, mostly because think about it like this. If Aston Martin are really a double points team, if they are trying to place a little bit higher, they are trying to be a little bit more ambitious, the timeline we all expect is that in 2026, with the Adrian Newey partnership in full swing, Newey going into this year, he's only going to be putting all of his effort towards the 2026 car. Maybe he'll toss an upgrade on the 2025 car here and there if he's got some time, right? I think that this race weekend is going to outline and define the Aston Martin season from race 1 all the way down through Abu Dhabi. We're going to get a pretty good idea if they land in an overall 5th place. Cool. It's about what we got from last year. It's about what we expected. Nothing shocking here. But if they put together a really good weekend and Fernando Alonso brings it at Albert Park, I mean, that's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, we'll see.
Wow. You seem really whelmed by my commentary on that. I appreciate it. Mercedes.
Go ahead.
You want me to start? How gracious of you.
I mean, I didn't give you the floor, but you can go ahead and take it.
All right, look. I think the expectations this weekend is Kimi just keeping it on track.
Yeah.
I know that the bar feels really low considering how excited I am and how much I feel like I've hyped him up, and the overall community has probably hyped up Kimi Antonelli. But again, remember, it's gonna be wet conditions for the first race weekend for a lot of these rookies. Keeping it on track. If he even lands, I think the highest expectation I have for Kimi Antonelli this weekend is probably like a P7. I'm excited. I really want to see what the kid's got, but I want to also contextualize this. He did have a crash in F2 in Australia last year.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
He did. So I think his goal more or less is going to be
dry conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, cars are a little, I think he understeered and just, it slipped off track and DNF, sometimes those things kind of happen. However, for him, it's keeping it on track, bringing it home safely. I don't think the expectations should be through the roof, but I think it's fair to say points are an expectation when you're a Mercedes driver.
So would you be upset if there was a no points weekend for Kimi in his first year or his first weekend?
Upset? I think I'd be a little more upset if he crashed. Okay. If he DNFs, I think I'd be upset. I don't think I would be floored if for some reason the Mercedes didn't quite finish in the points.
Okay.
If he's sniffing points, that's awesome. If he gets points, fantastic. But I'm not expecting anything like a podium. I'm not expecting anything like a top 5. It's a good car from all accounts. Testing, the reports seem to be that they could very well be 2 to 3 as far as the speed hierarchy there. But again, this is a rookie driver, first race. Not everybody is Lewis Hamilton and just absolutely murdering the game coming out.
Fair enough.
As far as his teammate, George Russell, I think the question to be asked for George and for the Mercedes team overall, he is going to set the trend for this team.
He's got to be the leader.
He is the leader for sure.
I understand that he's the leader, but he needs to actually develop in that role.
Yeah. What I mean though is from a car perspective, from a performance perspective, you have to be sniffing the podium if you're George Russell.
Yeah.
If the car is as good as the media seems to think it's going to be, as good as Mercedes feels it can be, maybe a couple steps behind McLaren, but enough to potentially hit a podium. If you're battling the Ferraris, you're battling your former teammate, Lewis Hamilton, you're battling Charles Leclerc. In these conditions, P3 has to be the goal for George Russell. I think if you get P5, that's like a baseline. It's going to be tough at the top this year, but Mercedes are not there to lose.
All right. Sounds good. Let's move on to the next team. Let's go to Red Bull. I know you went over your driver that you think is under the most pressure. I think for me, and this is kind of like a 1A, 1B situation, I think Liam Lawson is under a lot of pressure this year. And I understand that Red Bull Junior Academy and the Red Bull reserve in general is not super duper stacked. But I do not think Christian Horner's not going to let go of another season of points dying every weekend. Shout out Checo Perez.
Oh, Checo Perez,
future Cadillac driver. But
no way.
I'm just.
You want to get me on a rant this early?
We'll wait.
He does not belong on the grid. All right,
we'll
continue.
Wait. But no, I don't think Christian's going to go through an
anymore.
entire season of letting points die every single week. So if Liam can't cut it, and it shows that soon and very early in the season, his seat can be taken over by probably not Yuki, but you could throw Yuki in that mix. If Isaac starts off really, really hot, who knows?
I mean, that would be
that'd be crazy, right?
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, who's to say that Red Bull doesn't pull the trigger and find somebody up? Daniel Ricciardo, I don't know. But like, I think Liam Lawson's leash is really short, and I don't think anybody's talking about
Well, let me
that.
ask you this then. Where do you think is a safe marker for Liam in race 1 with the Red Bull team?
I would say you need points.
Well, I mean, P10 upwards. I think the idea is, like, obviously Red Bull have a high bar here. That's not going to surprise anybody.
Yeah, I would say that if you're Christian Horner, it's not like, I mean, let's look. I hate to bring him up because I don't want to. I can see the vein kind of start. But with Checo, there was literally some weekends where he just was getting points at all. He was DNFing, or
he had a P18 finish in Mexico.
It was insane. It was insane differences between his time and Max's time in the same car, right? So if you're Liam, you can't. Christian Horner doesn't have any reason to be upset if you're bringing home points every weekend, whatever that be, from 10, 7, wherever.
There is a merit of points, though. If the car is good, I think the overall speculation is they're probably hovering around that 4th place to 3rd place spot as far as like general speed. They had a lot of issues when it came to testing as far as reports were concerned as well. I watched a lot of testing. They spent a lot of time in the garage. I'll put it to you like that. I think they had the least amount of laps of any team because they were dealing with some issues even there. Yes, the expectation is going to be points for Liam Lawson. He's got the most races under his belt of the quote-unquote rookies of this class.
Right.
I think that a fair number for him to hit would be a P7, and I don't think he can really fall below that. But as far as a consistency is concerned, you have to be within 1 to 2 places Max every single weekend because Max is going to drive the hell out of that car.
Oh, yeah.
He can elevate a car.
Well, we talked about it all year last year.
Like, he's a guy that even if the car is he's
not
going to get
like
championship level, like he can still compete.
He's going to get that. He's going to get 110% out of that car every weekend, every time he can. If it's a 5th place car, he's going to put it on the podium every time. That's just how good he is. That is how much he can get out of the car. That is just his talent level. So we're not saying that we're not saying anything like, oh, Liam, you have to be this much time in between Max. No, we just need you to bring home points if you're Red Bull.
I don't expect him to beat Max more than like a handful of times this year. And this is not a weekend where I think, again, with rainy conditions, we've seen what Max can do in traverse environments, right? I mean, Brazil was a masterclass. We waxed poetic about it.
Yeah.
But if you're Liam Lawson, points absolutely are the barometer. They're the baseline. I don't even think a P10 is enough for Liam Lawson, unfortunately. I think you have a good point as far as the most pressure.
I would say
I don't think he's as liable to lose his seat as much so as a Jack Doohan, at least not until summer break.
Right. I would say, just ending this right here, I would say Liam Lawson, you get a P8, you keep your seat hot. The seat doesn't get hot, and we move on to next weekend. We'll see what we get.
As long as you're not costing constructor, title points the way that Sergio Perez was last year, you have so much more leash.
All right. Now going over to the Scuderia Ferrari.
Yeah.
All eyes on them, man.
I mean, it really is. I think that's fair. You mentioned that during our last podcast as well. I think the time to strike for Ferrari is early, and they have to strike often. I mean, this is a championship pairing of drivers that we don't get very often. This level of driver talent, you don't get this kind of driver pairing often. Even though this is a much older Lewis Hamilton, the guy can still put it on the podium. He won 2 races last year.
Right.
The learning curve is going to be a little bit notable early, I think. There's still going to be a lot to go over as far as like actual Grand Prix procedure with Ferrari. But I think the expectations are still really high for a guy like Lewis Hamilton, for himself, as well as the fans. I think a top 5 has to be in mind here for Lewis. As far as Charles is concerned, I mean, you got to create early optimism for a championship run.
Yeah.
This is a podium or bust environment with Ferrari,
Yeah.
but with the hype, with the potential that we saw out of that team last year at the very end, I mean, Charles has no option other than P3 at worst.
Well, we talked about it last year. Towards the end of the season, Charles Leclerc was on a tear.
He was ridiculous.
Like, really, ever since that win at Monaco, he really turned it on. And that entire end of the year, it was like, man, like McLaren better, like they need to keep a watch on Ferrari. And Charles Leclerc was the head of that operation.
Mm-hmm.
Not taking anything away from Carlos Sainz, of course, but Charles Leclerc was on a tear last year. If he can carry that into this year, he's for sure staring down a driver's championship, and he's at least going to go for it. So I agree.
This is absolutely a season.
You need a podium from Charles Leclerc first weekend.
100%. And moving on to your boys, got your McLaren gear on today.
Yeah.
Look, you want me to start? Or you want to start?
I'll start.
Go ahead, buddy.
And I'll keep it short.
How are we seeing this weekend?
I'll keep it really short. I think shout out Oscar Piastri extending multi-year contract with McLaren.
Yeah, we got to find out how many years, but
we won't. We never will. That's just how these contracts go. I'm not completely done with Drive to Survive, but shout out Will Buxton for saying you can't have two number one drivers when you absolutely can. Shout out McLaren for doing it. And keeping them under contract, man, that's something that is really hard, especially, we've seen what silly season does. So I just wanted to say thank you, Oscar Piastri.
Yeah. First strike of silly season this year.
Exactly. So I think this weekend, look, it's kind of crazy to say being what McLaren has come from, but a win has got to be in the books every weekend. I would actually not be entirely shocked. And I know the McLaren fan base might get pissed at me for this, but I would not be entirely shocked if Oscar has a better weekend this weekend than Lando, being that this is his home race.
I don't think that's a bold prediction.
But being that this is his home race, and we've seen some incredible glimpses from Oscar and what he can do when he's really got it going. I think, he's got that contract out of the way before the season started, nothing to worry about there. I think Oscar could have a really good weekend. I think he's in the mix for a win. I really do. I think he's in the mix for a win. I think that
I certainly hope so.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean, though. But I would say McLaren, it would be very disappointing. One, if either driver DNFs, and I would expect Lando and Oscar to be in the top five, and however that shakes out.
I think top five's fair. As far as the team is concerned, you got to set the tone early if you're McLaren. Look, the indications out of testing are that McLaren have not only the pace to win races, they've got the drivers to win races, of course.
Two number one
drivers. But on top of that, you're coming in not only as the championship front runners, but they're in a position now where they aren't used to this. They're going to be hunted. I know you're saying everybody's looking at Ferrari and everybody expects Ferrari to do this and this and this. You guys are still the reigning constructors champs.
I feel like,
walking into the season with the fastest car and the basis from last year being the first team to dethrone Red Bull in this era. Championships have to be on the mind here, and setting the tone early weekend. Getting a strong win on home soil if you're Oscar Piastri, or getting a strong win to set the tone that I am bringing that title fight to a Max Verstappen, to a Lewis Hamilton, to a Charles Leclerc, to my teammate Oscar Piastri. If you're Lando Norris,
I want to see a little bit of a pissed off Lando this weekend.
That's the energy you have to bring,
because Oscar's going to be pissed. Oscar has naturally, he is a little bit more on that killer mentality. He's got a little bit of silliness to him, but
I think his racecraft, when it's wheel-to-wheel action, I like Oscar more than I like Lando.
And we've talked about that. He definitely is better at overtaking. He's incredible defending wise as well. But I would say, you see a lot more of that killer mentality from Oscar. I need that from Lando all year this year. Again, I haven't finished Drive to Survive in totality. I'm a busy guy. But I really did like the episode that they did on Lando. And not because I'm a McLaren fan, but it was kind of like the first time we've got to see Lando be Lando. It's like, look, I am not the most pissed off guy on the track. Like I love what I do. It's fun.
Yeah, he kind of comes off a bit more of a silly kind of guy.
And he definitely is. But and it was kind of funny, right? Because in that episode, he's kind of like, look, I'm never gonna be like Max. Like I'm not gonna be ultra competitive like that. And then he got that first race win, and he's like, I don't know, man. I kind of want to win like everything.
Started
now.
seeing some red.
Yeah. So I think this year you could kind of see that difference from Lando, where it's like, hey, he's no longer an inexperienced driver. He's no longer no wins Lando. And just finishing here on Oscar, he does have a race win. He wants a race win, though.
He's got his race win.
I know, but he wants to earn his race win.
No, he's got 2. Did you forget Baku, my man?
No, I guess I did.
He forgot Baku.
Oh, my bad.
McLaren fans, get your boy. TLPs.
That's on me.
That's on me. Boy.
We had so many.
We're gonna clip that.
We had so many wins. I just forgot. I forgot.
Yeah, it must be nice. But how'd you forget Baku? That's where the defensive mindset comes from for this guy.
I'm sorry. I have to I'm still in the middle of learning
catching
myself
back
on
up
last year. Yeah.
So
last year feels like forever ago.
So
that's on me.
Look, I haven't even finished Drive to Survive. I had a full intention of sitting down to do a full review of the season. I'm 2 episodes left to go. I've had a lot of life stuff happen. I'll put it like that.
Yeah, I think I've got a couple things.
How many episodes do you?
I think I've got 2 or 3 more.
Okay, so you have seen a majority of the season. Overall, it's been a solid season. I liked the Singapore episode.
We'll do a breakdown on it.
Well, no, I think quick thoughts. I just want to get quick thoughts.
Quick thoughts. I wish it was more accurate. I know that's not going to be necessarily anything different than what any of the TLPs had to say or any F1
It seems
fans.
it's a kind of mixed bag. Yeah. The episode that they covered Mercedes a lot on, they completely forgot to mention that George Russell gets disqualified in Belgium.
A lot of people were upset.
And that one was, to me, was that one's really glaring. And obviously, the Max Verstappen with he was so mad after Miami, and the back and forthing about that, and him disputing it.
That didn't look good either.
It didn't look good, but to me, the big glaring one had to be Belgium. It had to be Spa. So that to me is the huge criticism of y'all ain't even gonna mention it.
Not
even kind of shoehorned in the Kimi
Antonelli
signing
after race credits or nothing like that. I did like the in-depth, I guess I would say interview.
You talking about the personal experience one from Singapore though?
Well, I was just gonna say I liked the kind of the one-on-one that they got with Toto in that episode, where the Kimi signing became official and how he went about looking at all these different drivers. It really did look like y'all were gonna go Carlos until Carlos wasn't really an option or available. And I think I don't know. I really enjoyed that episode. Kind of you're a big Toto fan, obviously being a Mercedes fan, but you like Toto as a person as well.
I like the way that they displayed them kind of walking through that process, and even Carlos Sainz, his entire experience until he signed with Williams, the back and forth, the controversy of all of that.
I did like that one.
That was another good episode. But I mentioned this a couple of times. I keep sprinkling it, but I really enjoyed Singapore. I liked what they did as far as getting a day in the you kind of a behind the scenes look of what do the drivers do in their free time? What is it like to be around a race weekend that's 18 hours different than European time, all that kind of stuff. The way they interacted with all of that, obviously the crazy conditions of how hot it was to drive the cars during Singapore as well.
What episode is this?
I think that was episode 6 or 7, something like that. But no, I really enjoyed that episode a lot. You get to see behind the scenes looking at George Russell, Charles Leclerc a little bit, Pierre Gasly, Alex Albon as well. And it does slip your mind a little bit. But Thailand is pretty close to Singapore as well. That being his home race and seeing how passionate the fans were for Williams and for him.
Yeah, I haven't gotten that one out. Yeah, I'm actually looking at. I've got
the heat of the night episode.
I've got 5 episodes left actually.
Oh, okay.
I'm on Wheels of Fortune, so I'm just about halfway through.
I didn't finish.
So thank you for ruining Singapore. I didn't know that happened last year.
Well, you'll have fun. It'll be a good episode. You'll still enjoy it.
Obviously.
So you wanted to also break in and have a nice little moment to shine here.
Yeah, it's going to be much more in depth next time we do a race week. We had a lot of technical difficulties, so we're still working on this. But we appreciate y'all's patience, and hopefully y'all enjoy our product and what we're putting out.
Yeah, Kevin Talks Track, though. I like the idea of this segment.
Yeah, so breaking down the track. Obviously, this weekend we're racing in Melbourne. The length is 5.303 kilometers, or for our Americans out there, 3.29 miles around the track. That's 58 laps. The lap record is set by the one and only Mick Schumacher. And there's 2 DRS zones.
Mick Schumacher? Really?
Did I? Hold on. I meant
I'm not trying.
Schumacher. No, I meant Michael Schumacher.
I was gonna say Mick Schumacher
for
set
some
the lap
reason,
record.
No, for some reason I like wrote it down and just never finished. It's been a long day. It's been a long day. Sorry. Maybe it was Mick Schumacher. No, it wasn't. It was Michael Schumacher. My apologies. In 2004.
That would have been some fun trivia right there.
Yeah. two DRS zones. So that's gonna be there's gonna be opportunity for overtaking. 14 turns in this one, and it's also known as the Albert Park.
Yeah.
So that's what I got for you.
I couldn't stop saying it early in the episode, so
yeah, so so there's a little bit of some fun facts on Melbourne's drive.
We got kind of a pseudo 2/3 home race situation here, because obviously Liam Lawson's from New Zealand, and then we've got Oscar Piastri and then Jack Doohan making his debut, so to speak. Not technically his debut. He went in Australia, Abu Dhabi, excuse me. But we got three pseudo home race.
Yeah, it'll be much more in depth the next time around. Trying to break out some new stuff, new segments this year. So let me know what you think about the track breakdown. But Australia, Melbourne, it's always an exciting one. It's kicking off the new year, especially in the rain. That's going to be super fun.
Yeah, I think the conditions are.
I want to say it was like 80%.
Practice is good. Qualifying is going to be warm as well, but yeah, it's supposed to be like raining during the entire race, if I'm not mistaken.
So there you go. Let's do it.
We'll recap too. Who won in Australia last year?
Who won in Australia last year?
No, don't look it up. I want you to guess. I'm putting you on the spot here. 3.
I don't know. I can't name off the top of my head.
Carlos Sainz.
Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, it was the one. He came back after having the appendicitis.
Yeah, you're right. It was. I do remember that now.
They even highlighted it in the episode of Drive.
I know.
All right.
My plan was to watch it all and then go back and watch it again and like take notes on it, and then that was my plan.
Okay. We have one more thing.
You're making me look really bad today.
I mean,
it's
been rough.
it's been something.
Look, we have one more thing I wanted to cover. And if we were doing this from home, I'd have at least like a spreadsheet. If you guys watched last episode, you might remember this towards the end, the P10 game.
Yes.
So I don't have that whole grid to just throw up on screen for us at the moment. Obviously, we're workshopping a couple things. But the idea really is it's kind of a sliding scale. If you pick 10th place, you get 25 points. The places adjacent to that, 18 points. It works similar to how a race win works all the way down to 10th place, but it goes all the way down to 1st and 20th place. So the idea is each weekend, we're going to predict who comes in 10th place for points. We're going to also predict the first DNF, and if 2 drivers take each other out, that counts as well. But who's going to have a DNF, or if there are no DNFs. And then on top of this, I want us to also predict our race winner. So P10 is going to have its own point scale. If you pick the first DNF, you get a bonus 10 points. And if you pick the winner for the Grand Prix, you get a bonus 5 points.
I'm DNF king. I'm always I just know how to pick my DNFs.
So with the insane conditions we're going to be looking at this weekend for the first race weekend with 6 rookies on the grid, I think throughout the rest of the season, we're going to have quite a few DNFs. I don't think that's a shocking prediction, more or less, but maybe not so much to the level of like a Logan Sargent, but I think it's pretty fair to say week in, week out.
High bar you're setting there.
I think it's pretty fair to say week in, week out, we will see some DNFs across the 20 drivers on the grid. So for you, Kevin Walker, before we even see a lick of practice this weekend, who do you think is going to come in 10th place?
10th place. You know what? I want to say that I want to make sure. Okay, sorry. It looked like we had a little bit of lag there. Still working on some stuff. I would say for 10th place, I would like give me Carlos Sainz.
You're gonna go Carlos Sainz. I don't hate that pick. I'm gonna go Ollie Behrman.
Okay. I also like that one. That's a good pick as well.
Who do you think is going to be the first DNF of this weekend?
First DNF of this weekend.
So we could go through turn 1 into turn 2 and have 4 to 5 cars completely DNF. I mean, a couple years ago, we got to watch the Alpines take each other out. That race was loaded with DNFs. I think both the Haas's might not have finished that race either. That one was a mess. That one was a messy race. And somehow at the end of all of it, Max still found a way to win that year. That was the year dominated the entire field.
First DNF, I'm going to pick I'm going to pick a rookie.
Okay.
I'm going to go with, let me think. Do you have one already?
No.
You don't.
I was
Okay.
going to kind of just riff it as we go. But if you want me to go first on the DNF thing, my first DNF for this race weekend, I am going to go with, that's tough.
I know who I want.
You know who you want now?
Yeah.
Okay. Who?
Isaac Hadjar.
You got Isaac Hadjar. Okay. You might have stolen mine. I'm not going to lie.
I mean, we could have the same.
We could, but I think my first DNF this year is going to be, I hate to put the target on his back even harder, man, but I'm going to say Jack Doohan. Home race in the wet. He's probably going to be maybe a little bit towards the back, but I don't know if he's going to survive turn 1, turn 2.
Okay.
That's my ambitious. Who do you think's going to win?
Mark it down as the Oscar Piastri win.
Oscar Piastri. I'm going to go counter. I'm going to say Lando freaking Norris.
I'm fine with that too.
Oh, right.
That works for me.
I know you'd be incredibly happy.
Yeah, that works for me. Works for me.
No, I really think McLaren are going to start off strong. I think it's fair to assume that, considering just how good they looked in practice, how strong they finished last year.
Which is not how they started last year.
Not how they started at all.
Strong, to be completely honest. So.
Yeah. But our first race preview episode in the books. This is the Lap Podcast, second episode, lights out in Melbourne. Of course, like we mentioned for quite a little bit of time at the beginning of the podcast, subscribe, like, comment, follow us on all the social medias. They've been at the bottom of the screen this entire time. So if you haven't followed us already, what are you doing? This is Kevin Walker. My name's Tristan Ryans. This is the Lap Podcast, and we're going to catch you guys next week.